Western Illinois head coach Joe Davis. The team came up just short at EIU 45-38 this week. They're going to host Tennessee State, the first matchup between the teams. So, Coach, some thoughts on your team, and we'll go to some questions.
Yeah, tough loss for our program Saturday, and what we deemed, was a very winnable game. And if you told me, I think you told any coach you had 38 points and no turnovers on the road, and you were 58% on third down, you'd probably take that every day of the week. But that did not equate to a win. I was told an interesting stat this week here in FCS football this season that teams that win the turnover battle and win what we call high ground, which is just the average starting field position. It's a special team stat, are 81-6 this season in FCS football, which is incredible, to have, that type of dominance on special teams and to protect the football. Certainly weren't perfect in a lot of areas, but to not come away with that win was very, very disappointing. So credit to Coach Wilkerson and his staff. They made one more stop than us. And, ultimately the only stat that matters is that scoreboard at the end. We came up short. So, I think there's a confidence amongst our players right now, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, that we're never out of it, regardless of score or opponent or location. But certainly as a program, still trying to figure out, how to finish some of these close games, a couple stops, a couple turnovers here and there, and our record and our situation amongst the league right now, I think would be different, but we're not there, and excited as we continue with our preparation here for a really, really good Tennessee State football team coming here to Macomb on Saturday.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go to some questions. I know we'll go to Dan here in just a second. If anybody else with us has a question, let me know down in the chat. But go ahead, Dan.
Hi, Coach. You mentioned just a few minutes ago those high ground, position. You had some really good kickoff returns on Saturday at Eastern. What do you attribute that to?
Our special teams has really played at a very high level in conference play, Dan. I mean, they really have. And I've mentioned this before. I mean, week after week, we continue to, make an impactful play on special teams. And, with new programs and younger players, sometimes special teams is more about just avoiding the implosions. And we've done that. We've made an impact. We had 3 drives start on really short fields on Saturday, and we're able to get points on all those drives. And, so we place a big emphasis on it here. I've mentioned Coach Caraway, our special teams coordinator, does an excellent job game planning each week and making sure that we have the right players in the right positions within our special teams units. Our kicker has been a very, very pleasant surprise this year. Toriano Tate is, among the best athletes in the country. I believe it was the OVC, long jump champion, a couple years ago, and continues to be a very national competitive track athlete here at Western. And so we were sort of waiting for him on kick return to get loose, so to speak. And he was able to do that a couple times Saturday. So big positive for us in our program right now, the play of our special teams.
And flipping that, you're going to be playing a very good return team. In fact, I think two returns for touchdowns this year. So you've got to look at it from the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And that young man, number 23 for Tennessee State, has had some explosive returns. They use him in the punt return game. They use him in the kick return game. They try to get him the ball on offense, a transfer from Austin Peay and has really been the difference for them in a couple close games this year. Saturday, was no exception against UT Martin, kept them very much in the game with a big kick return. So we'll have our hands full defending him in those units, no doubt about it.
I'm not going to ask you, had you scored at the end of the game, if you would have gone for 2, but I am going to ask you, do you look at the 2-point decision now differently as a head coach as you did when you were offensive coordinator?
A little bit. I mean, we're still a little bit chart driven on that, but I can answer your question. Honestly, we were going to go for 2 there. There was not a doubt in our mind. We had a good 2-point play ready, and, just with the flow of that game, certainly we're struggling quite a bit on defense, and to put our defense back out there in overtime, I didn't think would have been the best thing to do. So, had a good play there at the last part of it, and had kind of set up what we want. and didn't get Matt at the right spot of that Hail Mary, kind of having to be what we call the back tip guy. He should have been at the back of the end zone amongst that scrum of players for exactly basically where the ball landed. Nate did a great job of just keeping that thing alive and giving it a shot and keeping it in bounds, and weren't able to execute there at the end. So, but yeah, the back and forth high scoring game like that, had no intentions of going to overtime with that thing.
Got one more for you. I know they're bringing in a bunch of football alumni this weekend to Hanson Field, in particular the 1974 team that won at Hawaii all those years ago. What has that support and tradition from the alumni meant to you as a first-year head coach?
Meant a lot. The cool thing about that team was it was coached by Brody Weston, who was an offensive coordinator here, became the head coach here at Western in the mid to late 70s. And a cool story with the Westons that, he stayed around here and opened basically a beer distributorship here in Macomb, and his whole family stayed. So in Macomb, there's Westons all over town, and they're all huge Western supporters and Leatherneck supporters. Many of them very strong football supporters. So yeah, there's some uniqueness with that team, and it means a lot to this community, to this football program. And that's something that we continue to make an emphasis on here as a program, is just that appreciation for all the support that we have here within our football program, and how much this community, this alumni base, and certainly the university as a whole wants to see football be successful here at Western.
As always, appreciate your time.
Yep. Thanks, Dan.
Coach, you talked about the turnover margin, and just not in this game, but Nathan has been taking really good care of the ball the last couple of weeks, touchdown versus interception ratio. Can you talk to that and just not making those sort of mistakes?
Yeah. I'm going to try to speak on it without too much frustration. I'm trying to put a smile on my face. Again, in our first year here as a staff and as a program, if you would have told me that our quarterback had that type of production, going into week 10, boy, you'd be really excited about it. And in my time coaching that position, and certainly being more involved in the offensive side of the ball, if you didn't know anything about a team and you looked at the quarterback stats, you'd probably see that team was in the mix, for the conference championship. He's very productive, has accounted for a lot of touchdowns, has not turned it over. I think in the last 3 games, it's, he's accounted for 13 touchdowns or 14 touchdowns, something pretty crazy, and only a couple turnovers. So, he's certainly the catalyst and has gotten better and better every single week. Continues to prove he's one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the OVC, certainly in the country. And, the cool thing with Nate is that, as with all players that have a little bit of success, you see confidence start to grow. I remember early in the season, especially against Indiana, watching that team to what they've become now. And Nate just still, trying to figure it out and get his bearings a little bit as a starting quarterback at this level to where he's at now, has been really, really cool to see.
Let's ask you one more and we'll let you go. What about TSU's quarterback? And you referenced him a little bit, but he's been around the OVC now for 5 years. And it seems like his game has also elevated this year as opposed to maybe the times you've seen him as an assistant.
Yeah. What Coach George there has done there is really remarkable. And I think probably as good as anybody in the league, Tennessee State is playing very complementary football. And a lot of that has to do with Draylen Ellis. You can tell he's a veteran quarterback. He's in a little bit of a groove. They play to his strengths. They don't ask him to sort of go off the reservation. They say, hey, here's what we're doing on offense. We have a very, very strong defense. We've got some pretty good playmakers on the outside and in the backfield. And he's done a good job, as has Nate, really, this season, just protecting the football, taking what the defense gives them. If things aren't there, they're okay punting the ball away and playing defense. So, I've coached against Draylen now. This will be my 3rd time. I remember in 2022 down in Nashville, he lit us up at Eastern. Just went crazy for 300 plus pass yards. And then last year, I saw him struggle a little bit. So he's certainly found a groove and is playing really, really good football for him. And they, like I said, they play to his strengths and are doing a great job of complementing each other as a football program in all 3 phases.
Coach, appreciate your time as always. Best of luck this weekend. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.